Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I am so excited. I know I say that a lot on this show, but I really am. I just bring on the juiciest guest, I think. We have Michelle Jacobik here with us today. She's a business profitability strategist and a success coach. And what I love about this is she was buried in debt, clueless about money. And she turned that all around and now is running a multi-million-dollar business. Michelle, welcome.
Hey, Teri, how are you? It's so great to be here with you today.
It's so fantastic to connect with you here. Okay, so we met not too long ago in the last year at an event, and I don't know, there was some great synergy between us. I was like, oh, I like this person, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got to be where you're at today.
Yeah, I love it. So, I've had a couple of reinvention chapters, and the most recent one I will say has probably been the most fun because it's a place that really came from this blank canvas of figuring out or giving myself the space to figure out what I wanted to create in terms of my life design, or I should say life redesign, and then really the impact that I wanted to make in the world with my unique gifts and talents. But I think the biggest thing is kind of going back to where it all began for me and the backstory of what brought me to where I am today. And, the truth is I had a very modest upbringing. Both of my parents worked for a municipality. At age 10, I remember my mother handing me her checkbook register and teaching me how to balance the checkbook, which seemed really weird. It was actually one of my monthly chores. And I remember thinking more math, little did I know how important that task would be in years to come. I also, at that same time, was watching my mother and grandmother plan every dollar, couponing, breaking dollars up. I remember my mom having a little vacation club, her Christmas club. Layaways were pretty prevalent back then at Christmas. And I honestly, growing up, felt like we couldn't afford things because I felt like I was witnessing penny pitching in my child mind. And I wondered why we had to do it, right? And I also watched them save for a rainy day. So fast forward to 19, right? I moved out of the home, fueled by this huge sense of adult confidence that honestly could have powered a private jet. And I was the girl who I really dreamt big. I've got my vision board right here, right? And on the vision board back then, I was 20. I think I had a private jet on the board and, I dreamt big. And when I left out, I had the freedom bug. I wasn't going to pinch pennies. That's for sure that I had seen all those years. And Visa and MasterCard became my first business partners. And back then, years ago, payday loans were also very prevalent, where the checks would come in the mail and your name was in bold and it was $1,000. And I was like, yes, there's the universe, right? Just validating for me all of the things that I wanted to create. And so I got my hands on those things. They were my angel investors. But the truth was that I was making $11 an hour and I was spending like I was earning 75. I was chasing all those shiny objects. It seemed like the right thing at the time until the fog lifted. And I realized just 3 years later that I had buried myself in a mound of debt. And, back then, today debt for 22 and 23-year-olds is like student loan debt, right? That's the kind of problem that they're having. I had the problem that other people didn't have. It was not normal for a 23-year-old to have a credit card problem. And what I realized was my blind eye, my mantra, fake it till you make it, was also revealed. And I knew that I had to figure a way out, and not just out of debt. I had to get out of the chains of guilt. I had to get out of the cloak of shame that I had been wearing. And it took me 3 years and a lot of grind to figure it out. But I actually had to go back to using the things that my mother and my grandmother had been teaching me all along. And with more mature eyes, I realized that some of those foundational lessons, they actually came out of that first attempt of transition, which is into adulting. I learned that financial consistency is actually what leads to financial stability. I learned that replacing my desire for certainty with a desire for clarity, like, what do I want to be clear about, asking better questions, how could I create money to get out of the situation and then build forward. And then I also learned that having a plan, not just a dream, was a big part of the formula to success. And I learned that working on my scarcity mindset issues, which, for so many of us goes so far back, and those prosperity blocks that were attached to me as I leapt into adulthood, was just as important as working towards my first 6 figures. I started to master my vision, work on my mindset, learning about money. I was actually working for a financial services firm when I was 23 and going through all of this. And I was able to really start doing that developmental work, that personal internal work. And it led me to a place of making the commitment, getting out of that sea of debt. I ended up with a partner buying the company that I worked for right before I turned age 30, and then growing that base from 600,000 in sales to over 12 million a year. And it sounds nuts, but honestly, it came down to me aligning my vision with a strategy, and more specifically, cash flow strategies with growth strategies. When I got those things, I was able to take some pretty big leaps in life. And it really has led me to where I am today, which is teaching other people how to lean into releasing wherever they may be around their money story, wherever they are in terms of those, that heaviness. Maybe they've made investments in their business that now are debt because it's been around for a while. It doesn't feel like an investment anymore. But I've been able to use this path that I've been on, this entrepreneurial journey and personal development journey, to help others start to unpack some of these places for themselves. It's been beautiful.
I love this. Okay. So I think you're not alone when it comes to the debt piece, right? I think, and you've probably seen this, right? I remember my husband and I, we were both from Kansas, and we moved out to, it was funny. We were determining, okay, where are we going to move? We were going to do our undergraduate internship somewhere. Like we should move, we should move and let's go do something. And so we literally, how we made decisions back then was we threw darts, and either we would do one dart or we do, a full game of darts. I will just tell you, I have not improved at all over these 25, 30 years here. But we took the map of the United States, put it up. He got a dart. I got a dart. One landed in Colorado. One landed in Arizona. And I was like, Arizona is super hot. Let's just go to Colorado. Anyways, we moved out here, and the cost of living was so much more. We were renting a 2-bedroom house with a full backyard with driveway for $375 a month. We moved out here in Colorado, and we were paying our first rent for a 1-bedroom. Okay, 1-bedroom. And it was in a kind of nice, it was mid area. It wasn't like on the nice end, and it wasn't in the, horrible end of, the town either. But we were paying $975 for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Huge difference.
And so our what do you call it? The student loans was based on Kansas living, not Colorado living. And so we went through that money like so fast. And so we found ourselves in a huge amount of debt as well. And it took us some time to clear that out, because we started in this place of going, oh my goodness, but to your point, it's like that you can easily go into that mindset of scarcity because that was our reality. And it's like, okay, how do we get through to the next 6 months? Because we've already blown through basically on rent this money. And so we got into credit card debt as well. And so it took us some time to, get out of that. But gosh, it is so freeing. So what would you say? And I think it goes back to, it's really interesting because my daughter and I were having this conversation, and my daughter is now 11, and we were having this conversation about money. And I said, I said, you know what? I think, because she's been always curious about
Yes.
how things
My
cost. And
kids
so I'm
were
like,
too.
I give her information. And
Yes.
it was in third grade. They had to have, they had to have a business, and they had a business plan and all this stuff. And they had to create a product, and they actually had to sell the product at school. And I was like, you got to move this stuff. So I'm telling her, like, if anyone buys two, give him a little bit of a
Yes.
bump to get, because I was like, I do not want, she made 150 bottles of slime. And I'm like, I cannot have 150 bottles of slime in my house. It was more of a selfish thing on my part. I
Yeah.
understand, but I was like, we've got to move product. They sold out within 1 hour of the 3-hour event.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Right. But I love it, because she comes up to me. She's like, one day she was like, in third grade, she's like, Mom, what's the difference between profit and revenue? And I'm like, I love
I
you.
love you. I love your daughter. Yes. I
And I
love
was
that.
like,
And I
let's
love this
unpack this. But
tool.
I think it's like having those conversations. So I think, what can parents do with young children, or even teenage children, or children out of the home? I
Oh my
think is we
God.
can have these. I think our society does a disservice by
Yeah.
not having these conversations early.
Yeah. Yes,
So what
girl.
are
I
some,
am so,
let's talk about some tips there, and then we'll
yeah.
move into some other stuff here.
I love that. So first of all, it's these conversations that lead us, because we're not taught, they're not, first of all, kudos to your children's school for bringing in this level of, money conversation and entrepreneurship. Like, kudos to them. Like,
Yes,
she's in
I
a
know.
great
I'm like,
place,
I'm all
third
of it. Like,
grade.
this is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
And so I think the biggest thing is, first understanding as parents, or, aunts, uncles, whatever you are,
Yes.
whatever relationship you are to, children in your life, that we have to be having conversations we're not allowed, we're taught not to talk about money, right? Don't talk about money. Don't talk about
Yeah.
debt. But there are so many teachable moments that we have. And ultimately, our job as parents, or as support people, the village that are raising these children, our job is to help them to be able to live on their own. And so if we're not having money conversations, like, we all know that, the deepest piece of our security does come from money, and being able to take care of ourselves and pay the bills and move through transitions, whether they're planned or unplanned. So if we hide all of those things from the littles and the teens as they're moving into this space, they're not learning it in school. They're learning trigonometry, they're learning calculus, they're learning statistics. No one's teaching personal finance, except most times in alternative schools, right? Because we better teach them how to, in an alternative setting, live, like the trade schools,
That is so true.
they actually have more opportunity to come out with that knowledge and actually make an impact in being able to manage their lives. So what my first thing is, we need to be having these conversations, and from the place of curiosity. We don't want to be banging our heads over our children over the head with money conversations. But what we do want is, we want this sense of curiosity on their part. And, think about it. For me, I think my first attempt at creating money was when I was 4 or 5 years old with a lemonade stand, right?
Yeah.
So for me, we start to marinate, whether we're playing store in the house, right? I used to remember pulling out my grandmother's spices and playing yard sale or store with my cousins. And there was this element of exchange and playfulness that came from that looking at retail, looking at, just getting somebody to buy from you, your daughter, getting rid of that inventory. The couple of tips that I have really are, one, we need to be having money conversations, but mostly from a place of curiosity. One of the other things is, I truly believe that we have to shift our financial DNA. And part of that comes from what we're thinking and what we're saying. And way too often, our children are hearing us say, we can't afford that. We say, I can't afford that to ourselves. We can't afford that. And I'm not saying be willy-nilly and just go out and spend money on your kids. What we need to do is, we need to shift that language and start to say to our children, how can we afford that? My kids growing up heard from a very early age, this is just my language that I used, and maybe it will be helpful for others, is, I pay for what you need, not for what you want. When I want something, I have to figure out a way to create that money, right? And my children learned that money is easy to create. It's as if it grows on trees.
Yeah.
Because, when we are thinking about what it is we want to attract, we then start to think, what's possible? How
Yes.
can I create this? What am I not seeing? And I have two children that are entrepreneurial in nature. My daughter wrote a children's book at 18. My son started a t-shirt company at 16 because he wanted the $300 pair of cleats and I paid 75. And he knew if he wanted what he wanted, he had to create the difference. So
Yeah.
you start to marinate this
Yeah.
place of creatorship and this place of helping them source out what it looks like when they want something. And if from an early age, they aren't just given everything that they want, but also not told that you can't afford it.
Yes.
We have to axe that language
Yes.
from
I
that. That's a
agree.
scarcity language. And listen, I've come through divorce. I know how hard it is to hold those things when you're going through your own emotional transitions, planned or unplanned, but we've got to shift the DNA that goes linear back through our own experiences, or even those that were imprinted on us from our own,
I,
parents or
I
grandparents.
agree. Because I think a lot of times we're making choices based on somebody else's, beliefs, lies,
Yes.
um, misconceptions. Like we've taken it on. And I remember my parents, they're like, oh no, it's, but and I think I have a very similar situation as you because my parents were pretty conscientious with spending and not spending, and my father was probably more so the one that chose not to spend at all. And
Yeah.
then my mom was a little bit more, he was more
Free.
frugal, and she was a little bit more free. So there was a little bit of balance, but they never talked about it, right?
Mhm.
But then I was like, when I grew up, I was like, gosh, I felt like they were always restricting, right? And so when my husband and I were both like spenders, and I was like, we've got to change this, And so it is kind of, if we can start having those conversations, having those, and just honestly, it's just flipping the wordage, the
Yes.
verbiage. It's like
Yeah.
giving it a different meaning and giving it a different perspective, but taking away the yuck out of it, because
Yes.
again, money at the end of the day, money is energy. Money is just
Absolutely.
exchange. It's just a form of exchange of energy. And so I get to, if I'm working, I receive money. And if there's something that I desire, I get to spend money on that, and so it's an exchange of money. If we can see it as that versus like this thing that is
Yeah.
bad or wrong, because we make it bad and wrong. And I was just literally having a conversation 2 days ago with this individual, and she's just like, her belief system, she got caught stealing money when she was younger,
Mhm.
and ever since then she was shamed, and she had so much shame and guilt around that experience, and her parents like yelled at her, and it was a very
Shaming.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So you know what she's done in her life is like, she's like, I am not responsible enough for money, so as soon as I get it, I must spend it immediately.
Yeah.
And so she's spending it, spending it, spending it. And she's like, I am in so much debt. And I was like, wow, like this is really,
An
and this is
imprint.
something that was imprinted when she was
Mhm.
probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not responsible enough because my parents told me I wasn't responsible enough and I can't have money. And so as soon as I get it, I mean, talk about, burning a hole in your
Yeah.
pocket. It's like instantaneously, like, got to get rid of it. And so I was like,
Yeah.
let's shift this. Like, let's clear out this block. And it's amazing kind of the transformation that she's had. Now
Beautiful.
she's like allowing money. And I was like, let's just see it as energy. It's playful. It's here for us. It's here to support us, right? And taking a different
Yes.
perspective on it.
I love it. I love that. And I think, the other piece of this is that, you know, being able to remove those, I call them prosperity blockers, right? Like they
Yeah.
literally are blocking no matter how much we have,
Yeah.
we can still screw it up and whatnot. But it's also taking back our power around the fact that we've given too much power to it. And
Yeah.
yet we also can be empowered through the process and the discovery of learning about money, of being, not so attached to the emotional pieces of it, but the technical pieces of how do we plan business, right? So one of my biggest passions in life today in this chapter is helping entrepreneurs be on the winning side of the statistic that says that 66% fail, right, in the first 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
And it's a very real number. And what's so interesting to me is that the numbers have gone up. Right now, there's 39% of new businesses are started by women, and we're celebrating that. Yet the statistic to failure rates has never changed. And so for me, I feel like, one of my missions in life today, I have a new book coming out called The Path to Profits. And it's about really aligning your vision with, I call it the pillars of envision success is vision, flow, and grow, flow being cash flow. And that technical side of things that we as women or entrepreneurs, it's not just women, need to learn so that we lengthen the runway, right? So that we have a clear vision of the life we want to create. We build our business to align with that, but with a clear understanding of the runway that's required so that we are empowering ourselves to learn and ask questions. Because when we're coming to the story or we're coming to the playground and we have all this money garbage, then we're not empowering ourselves to be in the learning place, right? Even with women that I will work with, entrepreneurial women, there's this shame even around the word wealth, right? Like women tend to be nurturers and gatherers and savers. So when we earn money, it's like, well, our money is for the family vacation, the kids' dance lessons, for the things that happen for the family. When the truth is, we should be learning how to empower ourselves to be building wealth, our retirement accounts, maybe an investment vehicle so that we have leverage income, down the road, Airbnb, like whatever that looks like. And then how do we create money as we're building the runway to have successful and profitable businesses? Maybe it's the gig economy, right? Being creative. But I think the biggest thing is getting people to lean into this discovery around the education for money, and then ditching some of you got to do the emotional work, because you can do all the education you want, but if you aren't working with Teri doing the emotional pieces of things, which I'm woo, and I don't bring that, I bring pieces of that, the visionary stuff to people. That's what I love about my work. I get to do all of it. I get the technical strategic pieces with the woo. And I get to play in this authentic place for myself as a consultant, right? I don't like the word coach, because I do believe that when people reach out to me for that path to profitability, it really is from a consultancy perspective. But I really want to see more people empowering themselves around the educational parts of where they can learn how to create profitable businesses and change their family legacy from that place using their unique gifts and talents, which, you and I today are fortunate to be doing.
I love this. Okay. So before we wrap up here, what is some another strategy, a tip that's been helpful for you or for the clients that you work with that has really transformed the way they think about money, play with money, invest money? Like, just give us another little nugget, if you will.
I'll give you one of my favorite tips. So one of my favorite tools, actually, not just tip, but is the Secret to Money app that you can download on your phone. So everybody's heard of, maybe not everybody, but if you've heard of the book, The Secret, right? So the app can be downloaded. It's $2.99. And as a profitability strategist, I make people go through their subscriptions and ditch the ones that they're not using. This is not a monthly. It is a one-time deal. It's $2.99. If you don't have it on your phone, Teri, you've got to get it when we're off.
All right. What is it called again? What is it called?
It's called The Secret to Money.
The Secret to Money. Okay.
Yeah. And it's literally looks just like the book, The Secret, I'm going to just show you right here on my screen.
Okay, perfect. So for folks that are on the YouTube, if you're just on the podcast, maybe pop over and check us out on the YouTube video as well. So it does look just like The Secret, the book by, what is her name?
Byrne. Yeah, Byrne. We'll drop it in the show notes, right? Drop it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But here's what I love about this tool, right? So what's so great about this is there's 7 different pillars that you're playing in every day. There is a place where you actually track manifested money. So money that you did not have to earn, money that just showed up in your in the mail, and, or, maybe you got a rewards at Kohl's and it was $30 or a coupon. Like, you track all of the money that you've manifested. It could be a gift.
Oh my goodness. I know. I received 2 checks in the mail last week, and one was like 2,500 and the other one was like 150.
Yeah. Hello.
So I'm like, hello, like, wait, where did this come from? And I was like, oh, it's something that, again, it was like years ago. And it was like a
Yes.
little reimbursement check. I love it.
Yeah. But what's so great about the app, like I'm actually looking at mine right now, and it shows that since December of last year, I've manifested $78,898. This
Oh my
is
gosh,
like
I love it.
things that were gifts, auto insurance savings, $1,200, right? An audit refund of $333. Let's see, I have a beach pass. I moved to Naples, Florida, and as a resident, I don't pay for beach parking. So like I literally go multiple times a week to go down and walk at the beach where it would have cost me. I track it because I didn't have to earn it. I know it sounds a little like really,
No, but
but
I think
it's
this is
really
brilliant because I think
important for us.
I'm a huge person, a believer in talking about the evidence, right? When we're manifesting things, because so often we forget the things that are showing up, and it's like, so I have like an actual, one of my planners is like an evidence journal, so we
I
can
do
track this.
too.
And
Yes.
here's the thing is, I love this about money because you're right. Like I get gifted money a lot. I feel like I was like, oh my
You're
goodness.
very
Like, and
intuitive.
even if it's like someone treats me, I went to coffee the other day and someone treated me
Yeah.
unexpectedly to coffee. And I
Yeah.
get it. It was $5, but still like it's $5, you know? And so
And
I
what it
love
is,
the fact.
it's this reminder that we don't have to be in the
Yeah,
energy of earning and striving and
I love
producing
this.
all the time, which for me was one of my makeups. Like I was always like, I gotta keep going, keep going, keep going, 60 hours a week, right? I create it. And then we're not co-creating at all. We're pushing,
Yes.
we're striving, right?
Yeah.
So I love that there's a place for you to keep track of your
Love it.
manifested money.
Yes.
There's 25 daily affirmations. They change every day and they pop up, and you go through them, just you say them out loud, you just read them, and they bring every day some affirmation to how you're in relation with money. There's also like one daily inspiration, and then there's also a place for you to keep this is the super fun thing. It actually sends you free money. Okay. So it'll start in the beginning with like $250, and you have to spend what they send you on your app, or it will never send you more money. So
My
in the
gosh, I
beginning,
love this on multiple
yeah,
levels. Like it's like
yes,
that's that law of reciprocity in motion.
yes,
I love it.
yes. And I remember in the beginning, my husband was like, okay, wait a minute, you're spending free money. What is that? Like, that is so whatever. You're excited. And the little cash register goes cha-ching. And, I'll be on a meeting and I'll hear the cha-ching and I'll be like, there's money there. I wonder how much. But here's what happens, right? You have to spend the money to get more money. So in the beginning, it's very small amounts, $250, $500. And I remember in the beginning, it was very easy for me to spend the 250, to spend the 500, right? Because you're just like thinking, I was like, oh, I'll get an iWatch, right? I'll get an iWatch. And then now there's 2,500 that it sent me. Oh, I'll redo the floors in the Airbnb, right? So now you're going to this thing. You start to see that as bigger amounts of money come to you, because now I'm getting like 250,000 a day, right? And you're like, there's weeks I'll go without spending it, because I'm like, how am I ever going to spend that much money? So it also shows you your thresholds of where maybe your creation is, or where your relationship with money stops, right?
Yes.
But what's so great about it is that when the real money shows up unexpectedly, right? When I had that first, as you said, the refund check came in the mail, and you're like, oh my God, $2,200 just came in. I didn't have to think about where I was going to spend it, because I was like, wait, this is money I didn't have. It manifested, and I would
Yeah.
go to the list of where I had spent money, and all of a sudden the first 6 things that were in that 250 to 500, they were checked off. So it's
Yeah.
almost like you're pre-creating this vision of where
Mhm.
you would spend money, and you're bringing in your
So
vision board and your
juicy,
goals.
so
It's
juicy.
so
I love
good.
this. Well, the other thing that
Yeah.
I love about this from just an energetics perspective is that you have an app that's reminding you, and you're pulling it into conscious awareness, and it's on the forefront, because a lot of times we'll put out of sight, out of mind, but this is engaging that part of it. And when we talk about energy, obviously the more we put focus on, the more we're activating it, engaging it, right? And so this
Right.
is activating, engaging our money and the energy of money, like every day. So many yummy things. Oh, I had to say this because and if the listeners have not heard the song, there's a shorter version and there's multiple longer versions, but it goes, and I'll try to find it and put it into the show notes, but it goes, ching ching, I'm a money tree, money flows with me. And it's so addictive.
Oh, I
It is like,
love
it
it.
is so
The
catchy,
money
and
wrap.
it's like this like little like money wrap. It's like ching ching, I'm a money tree. Money flows with me. Totally. I'm butchering it now,
I love it.
but it is so much fun. It is so much fun. So I love this. Okay. So go grab the app. This sounds like amazing. I'm going to go download it today. Cause this
So,
seems like it's
and
right
then
up
you're
my
going to be texting me and letting me know what you've been manifesting,
alley.
right?
I'm like,
And then your listeners should be doing the same, right?
yes,
Checking
let's
in with
do this. Oh
us
my gosh,
and
how fun is
let's
this? I
have a
love
little
it.
fun,
That is
right?
just a brilliant tip. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so where can people connect, collaborate, and reach out to you?
Yeah. So my website is michellejacobik.com. And then follow me on Instagram. It's the place where I love to hang out and share. I share things from money to mindset, passion to profits in my Instagram feed. You can walk with me as I, have this reinvention chapter, just living life, as a new grandmother and as a woman who's leading this conversation with entrepreneurs and the world around shifting how we build profitable businesses and really create paths for living the lives that we really would love, and not the other way around where we're a monster to the business that we've built.
I love this. And I think there's so many people and you and I need to connect offline to connect, because I think there's some collaboration there too. Michelle, this has been absolutely delightful.
So
Thank you
fun.
so much for your time today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.